The world readies for New Year's Eve despite security threats. West Africa is finally Ebola-free. And a new app could be just what the doctor ordered for new parents. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari says he is now willing to negotiate with the kidnappers of the so-called Chibok girls who were taken from their school dormitories in 2014.
If a credible leadership of Boko Haram can be established and they tell us where those girls are, we are prepared to negotiate with them without any precondition.
Now, there are fears that Boko Haram is using the girls as sex slaves or possibly as suicide bombers. The terrorist group kidnapped the girls after burning down their school in the northeastern Nigeria. Boko Haram's primary mission is to create a hardline Islamic state in Muslim-majority northern Nigeria. Now, for more on the unresolved Chibok girls mystery, I'm joined by Aliyu Mustafa, managing editor of VOA's House Service. Aliyu, welcome to Africa 54.
Hello, Vincent.
Now, first, this kind of was a change of tone there. Was you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised. This is, I guess, the first opportunity President Buhari had to really talk to Nigerians at length on this issue of Boko Haram. His appearance on the media chat was brutal, but mainly perceived as honest. He told Nigerians two things that they didn't know about the Chibok situation. One, that the government has been trying to actually sit down with somebody and have a discussion on the issue. But I think for me, the key thing was that the government doesn't even know where these girls are.
Buhari came out clean, being honest, right?
He did. But up till now, the impression was that the government knew where they were. At some point, they even gave dates when they would be released.
Yeah.
They created the impression that discussions had been going on. It's also the first time that Nigerians have been told that no credible leader of the Boko Haram was found to have a discussion with. And that tells Nigerians several things. I'm not sure that Nigerians got enough to feel relief on the fate of the girls, because now we don't even know where they are.
It's been such a long time. Now, does this look like, in some way, a desperate move? Because it looks like threats are not working.
What I think is happening right now with the increased level of fight against the insurgency, and the promise Buhari himself made to technically defeat Boko Haram by the end of this year, which is about right today, it looks like the Boko Haram is disintegrated. I mean, right now they are not in good shape, obviously. Yeah. So the government now has to find who to speak to. Some reports have indicated that the girls are still there. They are mostly alive, and but they are in different places.
I mean, it's scattered
but nobody
around.
knows where exactly they are. So I think the government really. Buhari said he wants somebody that he can talk to. I think that is the key thing.
Could there be a fear that perhaps this group is actually splintered and perhaps even these girls may have been separated and gone to different groups and different regions?
Yes, that has been established so many number of times. The fact that Buhari came out to say, we don't know where they are, we have no intelligence even as to their physical location, it's not a very comforting thought. But I think he used the opportunity to at least put to rest some of the speculations that have been out there as to the fate of the girls, because if the general public believes that the government is aware of where these girls are, then there's a tendency for people to blame the government for not doing enough to find them and bring them back
Very
home.
quickly, what have you been hearing from the parents? It's been a long time, but what are they saying?
Vincent, since Buhari came into power, there has been some accusation, because there hasn't been as much activity as we have seen during the Jonathan administration, even from the not the Boko Haram, but the pro-Chibok girls groups that were seen coming out in Abuja, protesting and demonstrating. And there were accusations that they might have been doing that to increase the support for the government.
Well, we hope for the best.
Yeah,
really.
this issue remains unresolved.
Thanks a lot, Aliyu.
Yes.
Aliyu Mustafa, he's the managing editor of VOA's House Service. Now, a Rwandan pastor accused of leading and coordinating attacks on majority Tutsis during Rwanda's 1994 genocide was sentenced to life in prison on Wednesday by Rwanda's High Court. Ja Owindingi, 64, who once led the Kayenzi Pentecostal Church near Kigali, was convicted of crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity committed during the slaughter. During the genocide, an estimated 800,000 ethnic Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed by dominant Hutu forces in 100 days. Now, amid tight security, people around the world are getting ready to welcome in the new year. Turkey and Belgium say they have foiled plans of terrorist attacks. And here in the United States, security is also being beefed up. VOA's Larissa Hoke has more.
New York is in the final stages of preparing for its traditional New Year's Eve party, which culminates with a huge crystal ball drop in Times Square at midnight. 1 million people are expected to watch the countdown in the city and more than 1 billion on television worldwide.
We are the place where the world comes together and all of the richness and diversity of the world is present and seen. So people, who live in Ghana have relatives that live in the Bronx that come to this celebration. Every single part of the world is represented in New York, and I think that's why the New York celebration is watched around the world.
New York officials say the tight security measures will include deployment of about 6,000 policemen in and around Times Square, but the celebrations will go on despite threats. But Belgium's capital, Brussels, has cancelled its New Year's Eve party and fireworks display due to threats of an extremist attack. Belgium was home to 4 of the attackers who massacred 130 people on November 13th in Paris. And this week, authorities have arrested 2 people suspected of plotting an attack in Brussels. Still, residents and visitors say they will not cower.
I was in Paris the week after it happened, and the thing is, you can't let people like that dictate your lifestyle and your choices. So is it a threat? It's a threat anywhere, but it's not going to change my plans.
Paris will hold its celebrations, but under tight security.
The threats are still there. There are still risks. The presence of these forces across the country and what we've seen today shows that we have to be extremely vigilant. But that vigilance doesn't stop us from celebrating the new year.
Officials in Rio de Janeiro on Wednesday announced massive security plans for the city's iconic Copacabana beach, where millions will gather for a New Year's Eve bash. Australia is always among the first countries to ring in the new year, and people stake their places in Sydney Harbour well ahead to watch the spectacular fireworks. Larissa Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, rare winter floods have killed at least 13 people and devastated hundreds of homes in the Midwestern U.S. state of Missouri, which has been hit by a record amount of torrential rain in recent days. And the worst is yet to come. VOA's Brian Allen reports.
Residents of West Alton, Missouri, just north of St. Louis, are being evacuated before the fast-moving waters reach higher levels. The Mississippi River has risen over a main levee that controls the water flows in the area. Even though the rains have stopped, authorities say the worst flooding has not happened yet.
We've got a lot more water coming. We try to stay out in front of this best we can. We're looking at Thursday night or Friday morning for that crest, so we have 36, 48 hours to get ready for the top.
Forecasters expect the Mississippi River to crest Friday at 15.1 meters, which would match levels from the Great Flood of 1993. The Missouri River is expected to crest at 14.5 meters on Saturday, smashing a previous record. At least 19 federal levees in the St. Louis area are at risk of being overtaken by the floods, which have also caused untreated sewage to flow into waterways in some areas. The U.S. Coast Guard closed a portion of the river near St. Louis to protect the city and placed a round-the-clock watch over the levees. Residents were asked to help fill sandbags and place them along the riverbanks. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon has declared a state of emergency and called out the National Guard to help assist with what he called the very historic and dangerous floods.
The vast majority of deaths we've had, and I can't stress this enough, is people driving into water, and especially driving into water at night.
The storms have also caused the delay or cancellation of thousands of flights, stranding travelers during one of the busiest travel times of the year. Brian Allen, VOA News.
Well, it appears that 2015 was the year of the U.S. military woman. After years of studies and trials, all military positions, including combat positions, are opening up to females. VOA's Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb takes us to the new world for women in the military.
A historic decision these women had been waiting for. From Secretary of Defense Ash Carter.
As long as they qualify and meet the standards, women will now be able to contribute to our mission in ways they could not before. They'll be allowed to drive tanks, fire mortars, and lead infantry soldiers into combat. They'll be able to serve as Army Rangers and Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Marine Corps Infantry, Air Force parajumpers, and everything else that was previously open only to men.
Two soldiers, Kristen Greist and Shay Haver, became the first women to pass the Army's Elite Ranger course back in August.
You can't really have an off day. You can't be tired. You need to go the extra mile.
Their achievement helped clear the way for the Army's recommendation to allow women in all posts.
I think probably soon we're going to say, God dang it, why didn't we do this 10 years ago?
General Ben Hodges, the commander of U.S. Army Europe, says he's excited about the future force and doesn't worry about the naysayers.
It's going to make us smarter, more effective, and that rather than criticize them, they should be out encouraging great young men and women to want to step forward and serve their country.
One branch, however, wasn't quite ready to ask women to serve in its infantry. The Marine Corps provided testing which showed male-only Marine units were faster and more lethal. When it came to critical thinking, however, the joint male-female units outperformed the male-only groups.
So the question that it sets up there is, what kind of military do we want? What kind of Marine Corps do we want? Is it one that's purely physical, or is it one where critical thinking plays a part in an otherwise very physical, demanding job?
In the end, experts say the decision was not just about fairness, but talent.
Just because you're a man doesn't necessarily mean you were qualified for the position to begin with. And so thinking about it in a broader talent management strategy, you're ensuring that you're getting the best and that you also have standards for everyone to uphold, whether they're a man or a woman.
And based on the new military rules, ability, not the gender of these troops, will determine their fate. Carla Babb, VOA News, The Pentagon.
Well, this year, the U.S. legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. The landmark Supreme Court decision settled a major battle over the rights of sexual minorities. But others persist over what constitutes discrimination and what constitutes religious liberty. VOA's Michael Bowman has our report.
June brought jubilation for gays and lesbians.
Such a great day for us, for me and my wife. I'm glad that we're finally here, that we are no longer second-class citizens.
While the victory was huge, the battle is certainly not over.
Activists now target 31 U.S. states that have no laws explicitly protecting gays, lesbians, bisexuals, or transgender people from discrimination.
What that means is that a couple can get married on a Saturday and then go back to work on a Monday and realize that they actually have been fired from their job, lost their home.
I just want to give God the glory.
Religious conservatives are engaged as well.
We do actively oppose any inclusion into a non-discrimination code, something that should never be there, and that is gender identity or sexual orientation.
The Supreme Court denied this.
Staver's group defended a Kentucky clerk who was briefly jailed for refusing to grant marriage licenses to same-sex couples.
Under whose authority are you not issuing licenses?
Staver says gay rights threaten religious liberty and freedom of conscience.
This is not an issue that will simply go away. And the reason is the more people begin to realize how coercive this is to people of faith and values and ordinary citizens, the more people push back.
This country is pretty good about protecting religious freedom and religious expression.
Olson fought California's ban on same-sex marriage, which ended in 2013. He says this year's Supreme Court ruling sent a clear signal to lower courts that may consider future cases involving gay rights.
Because what the Supreme Court said in very passionate language, that gay and lesbian individuals are entitled to equal dignity under the law. Their identity, their privacy, their freedom of association has to be respected.
With same-sex marriage settled as a matter of U.S. law, the 2016 elections could be the first in decades in which the issue is not a major point of contention. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories you cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Well, coming up, good news in the fight against Ebola. Stay with us.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
Welcome back. Now, from medical innovation to disease reduction, let's take a look at some of this year's top African health stories.
The Groote Hospital in South Africa made history this year when it became the first hospital in Africa to implant the world's smallest pacemaker, known as the Medtronic Micra Transcatheter Pacing System, TPS. The device was implanted as part of a global pivotal clinical trial. Pacemakers help the heart beat more regularly and offer a lifeline for many patients with cardiac problems. Dr. Ashley Chin is a cardiologist and electrophysiologist at the hospital.
We give local anesthetic over the right groin area. Through the groin area we insert a sheath, and through the sheath there's a delivery system which deploys the leadless pacemaker into the heart. And the device is positioned into the right ventricular apex and can be repositioned a few times to make sure it's in a good position. Once it's positioned, the device is left there, and the delivery system is removed.
This new miniaturized technology is designed to provide patients with the advanced pacing technology of traditional pacemakers via a minimally invasive approach. Turning to malaria, cases of the disease have dropped below 500,000 in 2015, reflecting major progress against the mosquito-borne illness in some of the hardest hit areas of sub-Saharan Africa. The World Health Organization's annual malaria report shows that deaths have fallen to 438,000 in 2015, down dramatically from 839,000 in 2000. In addition, the report found a significant increase in the number of countries moving toward the elimination of malaria.
There's been a 37% decrease in malaria death rates, in malaria cases over the last 15 years, and that mortality has fallen by 60% among all age groups. And this has resulted in an estimate of 6.2 million lives saved over the last 15 years.
Medical experts say malaria prevention measures, such as bed nets and indoor and outdoor spraying, have averted millions of deaths and saved millions of dollars in healthcare costs over the past 14 years in many African countries.
Linor Moudou, VOA News.
Well, the deadly Ebola virus claimed 3,000 more lives in 2015, but by the end of the year, the disease was defeated. Here's VOA's Carol Pearson.
The past year saw a lot of ups and downs in West Africa. Elation when Liberia was declared Ebola-free in May. Defeat when it returned and claimed more victims, although the virus was quickly suppressed. Sierra Leone was declared Ebola-free in November. Then, after 2 years of battling the deadly virus, it was Guinea's turn.
For the first time in 2 years, we can say that all 3 countries have stopped the original chains of transmission.
The World Health Organization said the epidemic got its start in December 2013, when a toddler caught the virus in the forest region of Guinea. The epidemic killed 11,000 people and sickened more than 28,000. Experts warn that the virus can reemerge.
All of us in the public health sector believe that there will be other Ebola outbreaks, and that's the reason why we need to be prepared.
But the hope is that governments, health workers, communities, and aid agencies are now better prepared, and any new flare-ups will be stopped quickly. In an interview in 2014, the head of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control said leaving the countries with stronger health systems was the goal.
What we hope will happen coming out of this is that we not only stop this outbreak, but we put into place the labs and staff and emergency response capacity to stop the next Ebola or the next health threat.
There's yet another reason experts do not expect another devastating epidemic. There's now a vaccine that can stop Ebola. It was proven highly effective in clinical trials that took place in early 2015. The WHO says its goal now is to revitalize key public health programs in the 3 countries, especially maternal and child health. And the World Bank Group announced it has mobilized more than $1.5 billion in financing for Ebola response and economic recovery. Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a new app unlocks the mysteries of a baby's cry. We'll be right back.
The only acceptable system to them, a credible leadership of Boko Haram can be established. And they tell us where those guys are. We are prepared to negotiate with them.
Imbibe z'Uburundi umuntu wese ateza kubahiriza imbibe z'Uburundi mu gihe boza barenganya izo ngingo bazo bateye igihugu umurundi wese azohaguruka.
Welcome back to Africa 54. This is what's trending. Here's a story that could be just what the doctor ordered for new parents. An app that can differentiate between a variety of crying sounds made by babies has been developed by Taiwanese researchers. The Infant Cries Translator was developed at the National Taiwan University Hospital and can differentiate between 4 separate crying sounds by recording the sounds of babies and comparing them against a vast database. The resulting app shows analysis of a baby's cries on the user's phone within 15 seconds. Researchers say the app has an accuracy of 92% for infants under 2 weeks old, helping inform parents when their child is hungry, sleepy, in pain, or has a wet diaper. Well, and finally, for most dogs, a normal day would consist of a walk in the park, a nice snooze, and some tasty treats. But it's down to business for one pup in Japan as he dons a suit to anchor the news. The dog named Inuyama Shibao has become incredibly popular with viewers, and thanks to his cute face, the only thing that he is rolling in is fame. The furry anchor hasn't achieved a permanent job yet, as he is actually part of a series of infomercials for 7 Bank, and that is what is trending today. Now, towards the end of each year, people from all walks of life have high hopes that the new year will be better Africa 54's Esther Giduyuwa talked to a cross-section of people in downtown Washington, D.C. to find out what are their New Year resolutions.
My New Year resolution first, is to improve my English and also to write poems in English, because I used to write poems in French and now I would like to write my poems in English. And I have my new website, my professional website, and I would like really to improve it and to manage it very good according to what I'm learning at English now. I would like to be really a great web designer.
My New Year's resolution is to buy my first house in the United States. And also our baby's on the way. So next year will be a great one for us.
I'm from Chad. My New Year resolution is to exercise more and also spend more time with my kids and my wife. And I also plan to call my mother more often and talk to my brothers. Have a life.
What's your name?
Riley.
Riley, you have a New Year resolution?
Yes. To try and do better in school and attempt to make it to high school and get better grades, the usual, and help around the house a little bit more.
I'm from Afghanistan.
Do you have a New Year resolution?
I do. I have a resolution to focus more on health services. I have a daughter who is thalassemia, and she needs a bone marrow match. In the USA, there is a donor bank. Out of 6 million volunteer donors, my girl, my baby, has no match. So I will work to for people of color to come and become volunteers and join the donors bank, so my baby and many other babies would find a match and be recovered forever.
New Year resolution is I'm planning to take my music ministry to the next level. I just released my album titled Sounds of Joy. So I'm trying to push it out to make sure it goes all over the world.
My New Year resolution is to get a little bit slimmer than right now, losing some weight.
To read more books and spend less time on my phone.
Hi, my name is Arzuma Kompare. I'm from Burkina Faso, and my New Year's resolution is to keep making people happy around me.
And in case you're wondering if I have a New Year resolution, the answer is no, because I know from past experience that before the end of January, I'll break it. Esther Giduyuwa, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our show. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. What do you think of when you hear this American idiom?
Ring a bell.
Did you get my Facebook invite? I'm having a party next Saturday. Can you come? You know, my friend Jane Wagner is going to be there.
That name rings a bell. Was she at your last party too?
Yes, she was. And you two really seem to hit it off. You should come.
Cool. I will definitely be there.
If something rings a bell for you, it means you remember something. In our example, a name seemed familiar. In everyday life, bells are often used to remind us to do things. For example, school bells ring to let students know it is time for class. And that's English in a Minute.